This is KNEB.TV Ag News from the Scottsbluff Body and Paint Ag Desk. Scottsbluff Body and Paint, you're driving home a reputation.
It's time for Fridays in the Field, brought to you by FNBO, the Great Big Small Bank.
Up next, I mentioned there's a certain buzz in the air. It's being caused by millions of honeybees that call this farm their home. Joining me now is beekeeper of this farm, Kevin Monfelt at Bee Bum. Kevin, appreciate the time today. Interested to hear how you got started with honeybees.
Well, it started as a hobby about 10 years ago, Bryce. I was in construction at that time, and one of my friends suggested that I needed a hobby, and so I bought a box of bees. My wife was shocked. She had no idea that I was getting them, and then they showed up, and it just has snowballed from there. We operate about 300 colonies right now. Our short-term goal is to be around 400 the next year or so.
It's a lot of honeybees. Try to put it in perspective. How many bees are in each one of these colonies?
This time of year, there's probably somewhere around 45 or 50,000 bees in there. So
we add all that up, comes to that million number I mentioned.
Yeah, a lot of bees, a lot of bees.
How do you go from hobby to commercial beekeeper?
I don't know. It just kind of happened. We've been very blessed. Everything, we couldn't have planned this to turn out the way that it has. I mean, there's been so many people that have helped us on our journey, and the farm that we're actually on was my wife's grandparents' place. My father-in-law grew up here, so a lot of family history for us, so it's great for us to be here. We love it. But as far as we started that first year with one hive. A few years later, we were up to around 12 or 13, and then we started dabbling in different products. We first was just giving our honey to our friends and family, and then we started selling things, and I wanted to do something different than what other people were doing. I wanted to do things just besides plain honey, so I really started studying creamed honey and infused honey. And those really are our gold mark products that we have here. I'm very proud of our creamed honey. We have about 18 different flavors throughout the year. We just came out with a new one called Lime and the Coconut, and it's really popular already. It's only been out a week, so we sold out of it at 2 events this weekend. So it's pretty crazy how things go, but yeah.
There's a lot of unique things about what you do, and I've been able to learn about them over the past couple of years getting to know you, Kevin. But one of those things is the fact that you take some of your beehives and travel south for the winter. Why do you do that?
Well, it's so that our bees will build up and be ready to split a little earlier than they would be if we left them here. So we sell new colonies to other beekeepers or people wanting to get into beekeeping. So a nucleus colony is just 5 frames of bees, brood, and a queen. Laying queen, and so we sell those. Typically they start going out the 3rd week of April, and this year they went for a long time. I think we didn't finish. We had some onesie twosies that went out all the way until like June, so yeah.
What makes a good year for honeybees in Nebraska?
Oh boy, that's a tough question there. This has been a really good year. We've had banner honey crop this year. The rain, obviously has helped some. There's been an abundance of sweet clover this year, and a couple weeks ago the white sweet clover started kicking in as the yellow sweet clover was fading out. So and then also too, if you can build relationships with row crop farmers, you can get a little honey off of some soybeans too. So all of those things help to make it a good year. You got to stay on top of your bee health to make a good honey crop, though. Make sure your bees are healthy. So
that's where I wanted to go next. What's the single biggest challenge when it comes to having honeybees at this scale?
Keeping ahead of the mites. It really is. Where we go south for the winter, our bees start making mites much sooner than our bees that stay in Nebraska. So the bees that went south to Florida this year, we were doing splits on those already in late February. So they were brooding up the end of January down there already. And so they just, mites, one mite goes in a cell, 3 to 5 come out. So you got to stay ahead of those mites and treat. So those bees have been treated a lot more than our bees that stayed in Nebraska. But those mites are a vector for a lot of other diseases and stuff. And I could talk all day, honestly, about where that could go. But killing mites is really the beekeeper's number one duty. You got to stay on top of that and keep those mites dead. So.
In the stores, when people see honey, obviously the byproduct of honeybees, it's pretty much at most you'll see a pound of honey being sold at a time. But give people an idea of the scale of what it's like to have 300 colonies. How many pounds of honey are you expecting to harvest this year?
We're hoping to be somewhere around 6,500 pounds. And quite honestly, that's pretty small scale compared to larger commercial operations that manage thousands of hives. We're pretty small in the scope of things, but we're pretty proud of that because that's going to be our biggest honey crop so far. So we're not just a beekeeping operation here. We also raise sweet corn and pumpkins that we have for sale here. So we're just kind of a little multifaceted 10-acre farm that we're just trying to keep things going.
Fridays in the Field is brought to you by FNBO, the Great Big Small Bank. We'll see you next Friday.